I have to do those things. Hey guys, it's Molly here again for another video, and today we're talking about my voice. I don't know why. I just thought I should make a video about it because people have commented about it, and so I'm going to give the explanation. About a little over a year ago, I posted a video of adorable little baby Molly doing a speech, and people went wild in the comment section about my voice in that video because the voice I had then and the voice that you guys hear now are totally different voices, essentially, down to even like how I pronounced words, my accent, as many people called it. So I thought I would just give the background on that, and even now today, why my voice in some of my videos sounds different to other videos or most of my videos. Here's the whole background. In terms of my pronunciation of words when I was younger in that speech, actually, you know what? Back it up. I'm gonna insert like a little clip right here from that speech so you guys right now live can hear the difference of my voice. Boom.
As Mr. Lamont said, my name is Molly Burke. I am 10 years old and I suffer from RP. On behalf of all the children who have retinal diseases, I would like to thank the CIBC for such a generous donation, and all the donors who have helped get this campaign off to such a great start.
Alright, so I'm sure you caught both how raspy my voice was compared to how it is now. My voice is a lot higher now, and you can probably tell also the difference of my pronunciation, calling myself Molly Burke instead of Molly Burke. Yeah, little things like that. So I'll start with like the pronunciation, the accent, if you will. Essentially, it was a bit of a speech impediment that my parents didn't even hear that I had. A lot of people used to ask me if I was from Boston, if I was from England, if I was from Ireland, and yes, my family is from Ireland. I grew up learning how to pronounce words, learning how to speak from an Irish mother and around my Irish grandmother, so I was constantly hearing these words with Irish accents. And when I would go to school, like 4 or 5 years old, I would say things like vitamins and H and vase. So I would pronounce words the Irish way instead of the North American way, even though I was growing up in Canada. And so not only was I pronouncing words the wrong way, or just not the wrong way, but just a different way than most North American kids were, I was starting to develop like a slight accent, which was stopping me from fully pronouncing words, like my last name, Burke. I essentially could not say my R's properly, which is also like a common speech impediment. So it was kind of like I developed the speech impediment, I believe, through being raised by people with Irish accents. So that's why when I was younger, I pronounced words differently or said words that were not North American. And my parents, yeah, they didn't even hear it. Like, I would go home and be like, kids make fun of me, kids ask why I pronounce words like this, and they'd be like, what do you mean? You talk normally. Like, they just didn't hear it. My mom always jokes, she's like, we had so much stuff to deal with you. That was like the last of our concerns. That was very low on our priority list. You were going blind. So, you know, some other stuff came first. I only got rid of that accent, speech impediment, whatever you want to call it, when I ended up having to go to vocal therapy when I was 15 years old, which leads me to why my voice now today sounds very different to the voice little Molly grew up with. For the first 15 years of my life, my voice sounded different than the last 8 going on 9 years of my life. Growing up, I always had a raspy voice, a lower pitched voice for a female. And I don't know, I think it's cute. Like, when I listen to it, I'm kind of like, I kind of wish I still had that voice. Like, I just think it's a cute, like, raspy voice. But I didn't just grow out of it. I was trained out of it because I naturally speak lower than my range should be. That's not where my voice should sit. I naturally speak very low in my throat. That's my instinct when I open my mouth to speak. And that's the improper way to speak and is actually really harmful and dangerous for your vocal cords. And when I was 15 years old, I got my first job as a camp counselor. And as a camp counselor, you're doing a lot of yelling because you're in like open fields with lots of children to wrangle, so you're just kind of like raising your voice a lot, singing a lot of camp songs at the top of your lungs, and being all like rah 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 and peppy all summer long. And so after months of doing that, pretty much every single camp counselor by the end of the summer had no voice. Like, we would all just frequently lose our voices just because of the nature of the job. Like 8 hours a day, you're raising your voice. On top of that, I would then leave camp and go to my band practice because, as a lot of you know, if you've seen my Molly's music playlist, link below, I used to be in a angsty teen rock band, and I would go to band practice and then sing with a voice that had been yelling all day. So I was just really not treating my voice well, but I didn't know, this sounds maybe silly, but like, I didn't know you had to treat your voice well. Like, I just thought a voice is a gift we've been given by God and we can use it how we will. And that's not the case. And maybe as a singer, I should have been more educated on that, but I wasn't. So I just didn't realize the damage that I was causing to my voice, especially given I already had the tendency of speaking in an incorrect way. So by the end of camp and beginning of the school year, September, everybody else that I would work with at camp, their voices were coming back and mine just wasn't. I was getting raspier and raspier, and I was actually not now just having a raspy voice, I was having to like force sound out. Talking wasn't coming naturally, I had to put effort behind making sound. And I think by about October, we were like, maybe we should see a doctor about this. And I honestly like was not concerned at all. Like, it just wasn't on my mind. I was like, oh, I've always had a raspy voice. Like, I've just lost my voice like other camp counselors and it just hasn't come back yet. Like, I didn't realize that there was a bigger issue there. And I went to the doctor, I actually think for maybe something completely different. And she was like, and is there anything else going on? And I was like, oh, this voice thing. Don't know if you've noticed. It's not there anymore. And she was like, you know, asked me how long and all that kind of stuff. And she decided that it was best that she send me to an ears, nose, and throat specialist or an ENT. So I waited to get the call for my ENT appointment after my referral. Probably about the end of October, but beginning of November, I got the call and I went in for my appointment. The ENT this is the first time I had this, and it was the worst thing ever. I don't recommend ever needing to get this. It was awful. But they essentially shoved a long, skinny tube, metal tube with a camera and a light at the end up my nose, around the corner. I didn't know there was a corner in there, and down my throat. Very uncomfortable. Essentially made me like do ah, e, o, and like hold different notes at different pitches to watch my vocal cords moving. And to give them like a good visual of what was happening. And there was a screen on the wall where he could like watch what he was doing with the camera. And at that point, I was diagnosed with vocal nodules, vocal nodes, whatever you want to call them. You can Google it if you're really interested in learning like the full scope of what that means. But basically, it's essentially where you develop a callus on one or both of your vocal cords. And so when they rub together to make sound, it's not properly making sound because there's a callus, hard lump of skin on top of the vocal cord. So it's not able to make sound right. And it's an extremely common thing with people who use their voice a lot or overuse their voice a lot. I'm a motivational speaker, so I still have to be very, very careful because I just use my voice more than most people would. And I project my voice more than most people would generally have to. I'm a loud talker to begin with. I grew up taking 10 years of stage performance and singing where you're taught to project. I'm also blind, and a lot of blind people either speak too loud or speak too quiet because we can't get the visual feedback of seeing that you're engaged in the conversation, and we can't get the visual feedback of seeing that you're hearing us. So it's very common for blind people to either go too loud or too quiet. I'm the too loud type. My friends are always like, Molly, shh, lower the volume. You don't need to be shouting everything. But I don't even notice I'm doing it. It's just like me with my constant hand talking. Sometimes you guys are like, oh my God, the hands. But like, I don't even notice I'm doing it. It's just my natural way of being. And so because I'm a naturally loud speaker, and on top of that, I speak a lot and do have to project in more environments than most people would typically be in, I'm more susceptible to developing things like this. I'll have a whole list here of famous people who have had vocal nodules. It's a very common thing. Even a lot of teachers will get them because just like as a camp counselor, teachers are often projecting every day, 8 hours a day to a group of children. And so It's definitely not an uncommon thing, but it's not a good thing to get, especially as somebody who at the time, like, singing was my outlet. It was my passion for all of the angst and depression that I was dealing with. It was devastating to me to find out that I needed to take a hiatus from singing. And essentially the prognosis, I keep saying the word essentially, I'm sorry, it's bugging me too. But basically the prognosis is that you have to do 10 weeks of vocal therapy and speech therapy and go back, get rescoped, the worst. And then if you still have the nodule, you have to get it surgically removed, which is dangerous. You're doing surgery to the vocal cords. It's never, I mean, obviously, like, it's safer, they wouldn't do it, but there is a risk for losing your voice forever or dramatically having vocal changes. After having the surgery, you can't talk for like 10 weeks. No sound whatsoever. So it's like a big deal. And I was so upset. I just bawled and bawled and bawled to hear that I wasn't going to be able to sing and that this was like actually something serious. And I ended up going to speech therapy for 10 weeks where I learned to speak up, which is why my voice now is a lot higher than it used to be and why it's no longer raspy, because when my vocal cord nodule was gone after the 10 weeks of vocal therapy, thank God, mine was gone. I did not have to get surgery. But after those 10 weeks, my voice was totally different. I was no longer raspy. I didn't speak low. I had a very high-pitched, clear speaking voice, and that's because I no longer had nodules. And most likely I began with like a nodule or of some sort, like a tendency to have that, because that's just how my voice had always been and only got heightened. My nodule was on my right vocal cord. I still, 9 years later, have to be very careful. I usually get laryngitis once a year to once every year and a half to 2 years, as most speakers and professional performers I know do. And when you get laryngitis, it's the first step towards getting another nodule. And once you've had a nodule, your vocal cords have developed it, it's easier to develop it again. So I have to be careful. To me, speaking is no longer just a natural thing I sit down and do. Speaking to me 9 years later, I have to put thought into it still. I'm still constantly checking myself, bringing my voice up and forward. I still do vocal exercises. I have to do those things to make sure I'm warming up my vocal cords every day. And you know, it's just something that I have to be more aware of than most people. So if you ever hear that I have vocal fry in videos, which people have commented on in the past, that it sounds fake or annoying or they don't like it, it's not my fault. I can't help it. Vocal fry is something some people use as a technique. I don't. It's not something I'm choosing to do. It usually happens when my voice is tired. If you hear my voice cracking, again, it's just something that happens to me now. I can't control it. Sometimes my voice sounds grovelly or breaks. Sometimes it sounds a little bit lower in videos than other videos or a bit hoarse. And that's why, is because I had vocal cord nodules and I speak more than most people speak. And that's my tendency, is to speak improperly. And I had to, at 15 years old, learn how to properly speak. Still something I think about and force myself to constantly be working on. That's my voice. That's why it's changed over time, both my pronunciation and the tone and sound in my voice. I still work with vocal therapists. When I do get laryngitis, I go back to speech therapy. I take vocal rest. I do everything I can do to keep my voice healthy, to treat it right, to be good to it, because it does a lot for me. My voice is my job. And even as a blind person, my voice is the way I interact with the world. It's the way I communicate. I don't see facial expression or body language. I'm missing more than 90% of communication, which is what's nonverbal. My voice is everything to me, and I have to treat it well, and that's why you might get irritated by my voice sometimes, because, yeah, it's gone through some stuff. So that's that. Just thought I'd sit down and chat with you guys about it. Let me know if you have any questions about it. I don't know if you do, but if you have any questions further that I didn't explain or you want to know more about, I'll leave some links to information about vocal nodules and treatments and that kind of thing. And that's, and the video of my little speech, because it's really cute and you should probably just watch it, because I don't know, it was cute, so go do that. And I love you guys. Thank you very much for supporting me and sticking with this video, and I'll see you next time.